Good afternoon. It is Tuesday, November 1st. Skipped yesterday after work. One of my buddies wasn't feeling great, so no D&D. Instead, I edited a couple of the unboxings I filmed over the weekend. And I got all of the Dwarven Forge stuff documented so I can get it put away. Which included, I've had a plastic container on my counter ever since getting this camera. Finally found a use for it, so it's no longer on the counter. It's now storing more Dwarven Forge. I guess minis, so that the container that the minis were in can now store more Dwarven Forge. As the Imperial Streets took up basically an entire drawer. Yikes. It's a lot of streets. And they're all mine. But yeah, so I got that put away. Didn't do anything for Halloween. Just kind of, hung out here. Well, like I said, I don't know. I watched Stephen Plays The Quarry. But I've been watching that for the past month. And it's not done yet. But, it was something spooky, and it was Halloween, so there's that. But today is movie day. So what am I going to watch today? I have one movie left on this shelf, but I don't have to get to it. That's just before the end of the year. I have, upon getting the Marvel movies in here, which push things far enough forward, that I have movies on this shelf. So I have access to this shelf. Some good movies on there. There's actually quite a few good movies on there. And I mean, of course, I could just go right into the next phase of Marvel. Probably shouldn't. But I could. I've been thinking about it today. I've been trying to figure it out. I think what I should do, what I want to do today is, and it's been a long time. See, I was watching through the James Bond movies this year. Actually, I think I started watching through them last year, maybe? Anyways, I've been watching through them. And I got through Pierce Brosnan. And then I put things on pause to start watching through Harry Potter. From Harry Potter, went on to Marvel. I haven't come back. All I have left is the Daniel Craig films. So, I think I'm going to watch 007 Casino Royale. Which, to my understanding, because I have never seen this movie, this is one that I know I have never seen. Because when they promoted it, they showed these images of this new actor as James Bond. And he wasn't in a smooth, sweet suit looking awesome and clean cut and good. No, he looked like this buff, muscular, rugged. Like he's trying to be more Rambo than he is trying to be James Bond. He didn't have the sophistication, and I was like, I don't like it. That's not James Bond. That ain't my James Bond. I didn't know it was an origin story. Apparently it's supposed to be an origin story, and so theoretically, the reason he doesn't look like he has the elegance of James Bond is just that he does not have it yet. They didn't tell me that. I didn't know that. I thought they was just ruining things. I don't know. I have not seen the movie. Maybe they were just ruining things. But today, I am going to go ahead and watch Casino Royale. And I would give 007 Casino Royale a 7.3 out of 10. Now, back of this box doesn't have any description. It just lists the movies inside of it. So I have that document of back of box descriptions for 007 movies that I got back when I first started going through this. And for Casino Royale, it says, the newly promoted 007's first mission takes him to Madagascar, the Bahamas, and eventually Montenegro to face La Sheriff, a ruthless financier under threat from his terrorist clientele who is attempting to restore his funds in a high-stakes poker game at the Casino Royale. A few things to say. One, Mads Mikkelsen is our villain. I stopped watching the James Bond movies just before this one to watch the Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts series. And going into that, Fantastic Beasts, the third film, Mads Mikkelsen took over from Johnny Depp. And I was like, who is this guy? I've never heard of him. He's a nobody. Well, apparently he's in this. Had I watched one more James Bond movie, I would have known what he was from. Furthermore, one of the things that in the Fantastic Beasts movies that I was like, why did they do that? It's such a stupid decision. Is when making that character and Mads Mikkelsen took it over, not only did they change the actor, but they changed the personality and they changed the look. Because he'd gone from this really eccentric looking guy to someone that blends in with any other person and looks rather boring, actually. Why did they do that? Well, one of the distinctive features that Grindelwald had, as played by Johnny Depp, was a milky eye. One eye that was just about white. And so seeing as in this movie, Mads Mikkelsen is playing a villain that has one eye that's just about white, perhaps the reason they didn't do it is because he would look like another character that he already played. Okay. Still, bad decision, but I understand it. Also, just last week, I watched Hannibal. And in Hannibal, there's this really stupid French policeman who's just trying to get some money on his own. So betraying the police force and getting himself killed by doing stupid things. That actor, who I'd never seen before, also in here. It's James Bond's ally, who has been observing Mads Mikkelsen's character. So just some interesting things along there. I was like, Anyways, the movie follows the story of James Bond right as he's promoted to a 00 agent, given his license to kill. Making what M says is a foolish decision of who to kill in an embassy, and being told, go on a vacation while we decide what's going on. Of course, he goes on a vacation because he'd found some clues, and he's continuing on the case that he was on, and that's where he goes for his vacation. He doesn't bother to tell M. So he continues his case. He's gathering information, trying to figure out who's behind something. Ultimately, eventually, we'll figure out we're trying to track down this financier who is the banker of terrorists. Because the banker of terrorists has access to information on all the terrorists that they want to get to. So if they pull him in, then they can get a lot of intel, basically. So James is tracking down this mystery that's going to eventually lead to him and stops some terrorist attack that turns out to be banker of terrorists trying to play with the terrorists' money in a high-risk stock market game by rigging it with a terrorist attack himself. But James thwarts that attack, and as such, terrorist banker's broke. So he's going to the Casino Royale high-stakes evil people gambling ring. And so, James gets a seat himself. Because he's the best poker player that MI6 has. So we've gone through a couple what seem like plot lines at this point, and then what I would say our real plot line finally begins what feels like an hour into the movie. The movie feels like it goes over a few extra plots that didn't need to. It could have started us a little further in or something, but they wanted to also have it be his origin story. And in doing that, where he shoots the guy at the embassy and all that kerfuffle, like, James Bond is known for their chase sequences, and that was an amazing chase sequence that is almost entirely on foot. And it's so action-packed as a foot race. Foot chase. It's, sort of on foot. Hand and foot. A lot of climbing, too. Whew. Looks exhausting. Anyways. The real plot begins. They get to the casino. He meets his ally from MI6 who is handling basically the finances. He meets his ally who's in the area, and things get pulled together. Does a lot of gambling. He figures out the tell. He almost loses because the bad guy all of a sudden found out that he found out his tell. But why is that? Move on. Felix Leiter is there. CIA finances for James to continue because he recognized James has a better shot than him. And they just want to bring the same guy in. He's like, we'll finance it, but we get to bring him in. Fair enough. James now knows the guy knows his tell, so he's going through. And just gets a really good hand. And manages to pull things off. During this, we see some scenes that show that the bad guy has the terrorists after him because they know that he lost their money. So he really needs it. But James wins, so he doesn't get the money. What's he gonna do? He needs that money. So he captures the finance girl, uses it to bait James, gets him, goes through a really uncomfortable torture scene. And someone shows up, maybe one of these terrorists, and they kill the guy. Now they don't get the info about all the terrorists. But James is safe, girl is safe. But he realized, wait a minute. How'd the guy know the tell? My ally over here must be betraying us. So as he wakes up, he manages to get that guy arrested. He and the girl, all of a sudden she's gone from hating him to all of a sudden very in love with him, and they run off. They're being romantic. It feels like, wait, shouldn't the movie be ending here? Shouldn't we get a lovely scene of them in a boat floating off into the sunset? But no, they transfer the money through whatever the casino ring back to account that it should be in, and they run off. James sends in his resignation to MI6. He's gonna just be with this woman. And at just the right moment, he gets a call from M wondering where the money is. And so he calls the people that were handling that and learns, oh yeah, it went into your account. It's being withdrawn, it looks like, right now in the bank in Venice, which is where a young woman just went off to. So he chases her. They sink a building in Venice. My brain tells me that the buildings in Venice are not all floating on balloons, but somehow, like, anchored down, but I don't know. And the way that it's portraying at bait, I don't know. Because it has a boat, like a building, literally like a stone and whatever building that, as they start shooting the inflatables at the base of it, it starts sinking. And I'm like, is that really? No. Maybe? I don't know. I've never been to Venice. It can't just all be a bunch of buildings all anchored together floating there. That can't be. But they sink that, and big fight there. The woman who had betrayed him, stolen the money to give off to someone else, dies, but of her own choosing. And at this point, James is like, he was going to quit his job for her. He kind of gave his heart to her, so he gets really sad about it. It takes him at least minutes to get over it. He's talking to M. Finds out, basically she was, her boyfriend, husband, whatever, basically had been captured and she was being blackmailed into doing it. But the trails run cold. And then we get our final shot is as the guy who had gotten the briefcase of money that she was with is pulling up to his lovely house. James had gotten a piece of information from her before she died. And so he tracked down the individual that it referenced, found the Mr. White, and we end with James having like shot him like in the leg or something, or arm, and he's like crawling, and James just walks up to him, helpless on the ground. We need to talk. And then it ends. So instead of this James Bond movie ending with James and the girl like floating off into the sunset like James Bond is supposed to end, it ends with James being cruel and bitter about what the bad guy has taken from him, and ready to make them suffer for it. A little darker. And I missed 24 details in there that make the story make sense, because it was an excessively complicated plot. More so, I feel, than a lot of the James Bond movies have been. It feels like more complex of a plot than usual. It's not terrible, but it's not great that they did that. It was interesting, and it was something I could follow. But and I like movies with more of a complex plot at times. There are movies that I like that I basically have to watch a second time to really figure out what's going on. That's not what I expect out of a James Bond movie, though. But they're setting up the character. By the time he does get to the casino, he does look like James Bond. They put him in the suit. And he looks like James Bond. Earlier in the movie, not like James Bond. At that point, in a tailored suit, looks like James Bond. I liked it a lot more than I thought I was based on the trailers that they originally promoted it with back in, 2006? So, it's just whoever made those trailers did a poor job. Because they promoted it as being a bad movie when it was actually a fairly decent movie. I don't know why they would do that. Otherwise, it's late. I'm tired, and when it gets late, and I'm reviewing the movies, talking about the movies, and it gets late before I'm doing so, it takes me longer to watch the movie, that kind of thing. I get rambly, and I think I'm rambly. That's what I'm probably doing right now. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think. You like this movie? Let me know what you think of the movie. Comment. That holds true for all movie days. I want to know what you think of the movie. I'll tell you what I think. You tell me what you think. I should end this. Thank you for joining me. Joining me as my journey continues. Bye.